Okay, hello everyone. So today I'm just going to do a bit of an update and tell you a little bit about the progression onto carnivore diet for me. Someone asked me the other day how I got onto the carnivore diet and how I progressed on it. So this has been a very long, slow progression, really. So from 2014. After my stem cell transplant, I started eating a much heavier meat-based diet. I've always had meat in my diet, but it's always been very lean. But afterwards, I started eating more fat, animal fat. For the initial few years after my transplant, I was pretty much stuck in bed. After the transplant, my muscles and my bones were everything so brittle and dry. It was I had been cooked basically. Even my brain function, organ function wasn't very good. I couldn't speak properly. I couldn't breathe properly. Couldn't think, that sort of stuff. But movement was a real difficult task for me at the time, and I felt like even a small movement felt like it was going to break my muscles. So it was that dry and hard and quite painful. It took like a couple of years, 2.5 years or so, before I could actually walk properly again. A lot of setbacks along the way. Sometimes I could have a fall, I'd injure myself and that sort of stuff. But it was a progression of increasing my meat intake for one, and I was kind of dirty keto at first. Really, I just, not that I ate a lot of junk food, but that I didn't really feel like restricting any kind of food, because I just felt like at the time this was only going to get worse, because that's what the expert advice was. But of course at the time, but I also knew that I needed my proteins and things like that. So I wasn't afraid of eating meat, and I did eat a lot of protein. As I progressed, I noticed I was getting a lot more mobility back. I started breathing exercises, just shallow breathing first, because I couldn't breathe very well. And then eventually got into deep breathing. And I've been doing that for over 8 years now. Over the years, looking back now, I know a lot more about it than I did at the time. But I was really just working on what my body felt like eating. And it felt like eating meat, because every time I did eat meat and ate very fatty meat, I just felt a lot better afterwards. And sometimes I would even eat in the middle of the night. So it was a bit of a strange thing at the time, because I never really craved meat before. And it continued that way for quite a few years. And then as I slowly but surely started getting mobility back, I started cutting back my carbohydrate intake, because I just wanted to lose some weight. Because after spending so many years in bed and just eating, I was quite big, especially after, some of the side effects of the medications were also making me fat as well. A lot of them were steroid based, which drives blood sugar up and your glucose and that. And so that was part of it as well. It wasn't just the food, it was the medications that were making me fat. When I did eventually go back to the gym and start walking, and like I was breathing, then I started walking, and I eventually went back to the gym about 5.5 years after my transplant. That was another motivation for me to cut back on carbs, like especially processed foods, which we never really ate much anyway, because it was every meal, even going through treatment, every meal was always home cooked. So that was never really a big problem. It was mostly, the low fat and highly processed sort of so-called health foods that were the biggest problem for me. And once I started back at the gym, there's also a motivation for me to cut back on even more carbs and make a cleaner diet. So I was very much a clean ketogenic diet from that point. But I still wasn't getting enough fat in my diet. So I found myself, I would have major setbacks. I was still having trouble with injuries because my muscles and my bones and everything were still very brittle. It's still very frail. It takes a long time to heal from that much chemotherapy. And so it was, unusual movements and that sort of thing. It would lead to very easy injuries and long recoveries. But I'd also get colds and flus. A cold would turn into a flu, and it'd last for months because my immune system just wasn't strong enough. So throughout the years afterwards, this progression I went through a lot of stages of trying all these different so-called remedies and immune system boosters, like herbs and spices and honey and all these other things that all the guru experts would tell you that fight cancer and boost your immune system. Like turmeric and honey and all these other sort of things. But as I did more research along the way, I also increased my fat intake because it was always, beforehand it was kind of like, get your macros, you got to have your proteins, fat and carbohydrates sort of thing, the whole food pyramid based sort of, garbage. But, I just didn't really understand exactly how much or how important the micronutrients are, as in what is actually in the fat and the protein. And although of course I knew a lot about the protein, but not as much about the fat. And of course, the only macros that you need are fat and proteins, which that took some years for me to understand, of course, the information wise. But when I understood just how important the fats are to your lymphatic system, that's when everything really changed. And that was kind of, it took a while for me to find out, of course. But when I found the carnivore diet specifically, after so many years on a high-fat ketogenic diet, my transition from a ketogenic onto carnivore was less than a month. It was a very easy transition because all I did was just increase my fat intake, my protein, and eliminate the rest of the carbs. But before I started carnivore, throughout those years, my list of medications went down from like a full bag for heaps of them, down to just one. And I had just one problem with reflux still. And whereas I'd found, once I went carnivore though, that issue went away as well. So at first I thought the carnivore diet was probably the wrong way to go, because it was just eliminating things rather than adding things that I needed for my immune system, apparently. But when I found a lot of the research done, like in Cambridge on the ketogenic with diabetes, and I found Doc Baker, and then I found Professor Seafood and like ketogenic uses for treating cancers. Okay. That was a big convincer for me. Like, I knew cutting carbs, just to get lean sort of thing, was, it's always been a big thing, especially in the health and, fitness industry sort of thing. Cut carbs, get lean. But the actual health benefits is never really spoken about. And the actual health benefits of a high fat diet, because, like in the fitness industry, it's always about low fat, okay, because fat's bad, saturated fat and meat, that sort of garbage, which leads to, a whole heap of supplements. And, I was a supplement king, really. I used to take so many supplements. Now, almost 10 years in remission. I've been a year and a half almost on just a strict carnivore diet, a high fat diet. And it has been, now I'm on 0 medications. And from where I started, that's a huge, big deal. Like, that's gives me independence back from pharmaceuticals, and that includes supplements. I no longer take these supplements. I no longer need it. But having said that, I don't believe that you can get everything you need from just one source of meat either. For example, fats. I'm more fativore than meativore. So, but you need a good mix. You need your omega-3s and omega-6s and things like that in different doses. So I love to incorporate in my diet seafood. Lamb fat is fantastic for omega-3s as well. Beef fat and pork. A good bacon that is only treated with salt, for example, is very high in potassium. So, a good mix of fats and meats are essential, I think. And of course, eggs. Eggs are like a multivitamin. Plus they have a 1-to-1 fat ratio usually. So, and if I can get them, I like to have a different range of eggs as well. I like duck eggs and things like that as well. So, if I can get them, of course. So that's pretty much my progression onto the carnivore diet. But since then, since going onto the carnivore diet, it's been a dramatic change in my immune system, and a number of other things that have healed that were unexpected as well. For example, like, even though I was on a fairly high fat ketogenic diet before, I would still get colds and flus that would last me quite a while, like months at a time. So that was quite a big setback for me, in terms of getting moving again and getting to the gym and things like that. So that's one thing that has changed a lot. Because as I eliminated more carbohydrates, I increased my fat and protein intake, especially my fat intake. 80% of my diet is, my nutrients come from fat. And as I said, it's a good mix of fat. So, I have had colds on the carnivore diet, but they only last like a couple of days, and might be a scratchy throat, and that's about it, a little bit of a cough. But also, apart from that, all my blood markers, I still measure my bloods every 3 to 6 months, because I am on, because of my condition. Follicular lymphoma is a type of blood cancer that has no cure. Okay, it was incurable. They told me I'd be dead in just a couple of months back in 2012, though. I've been stage 4 twice in 2 years. I did 3 years of chemotherapy solid. But now I'm almost 10 years in remission. So that's a huge deal. It's a huge difference. So a clean ketogenic, clean high fat ketogenic diet has been the key to my remission and improvement in health. Of course, eliminating seed oils, any highly processed supplements and foods, including vitamins, minerals, that sort of stuff, because it's vitamins and minerals that you buy off the shelf, for example, they're not only, I mean, they're very high in deuterium, which is heavy water and that sort of stuff, but they are manufactured vitamins and minerals. Okay, apart from the fact that they are highly processed, so then you lose everything in the processing anyway. They are manufactured from, and largely from, plant-based as well. So you're really not going to absorb anything. It's not. I just think they're a waste of money. And believe me, over the years I've wasted a lot of money on supplements. As I said before, I was the supplement king. So I also avoid protein powders, because again, it is even like a animal-based like whey, it is heavily processed, and you lose any benefit in that processing for a start. But then they add things like seed oils and colorings and flavorings and all this other junk. So I really just think that they are a waste of money, and at best, and at worst, they are toxic. So that basically puts me where I'm at now. And as I said, like I'm in remission, and my blood markers have since going from a good clean ketogenic diet to a strict carnivore diet, I have lost weight. Even though I was exercising pretty hard in the gym, still on a ketogenic diet, I've lost about 70 pounds total on the carnivore diet. Plus, all of my blood markers have improved. Every blood test that I have had since, and I have it like every 3 to 6 months. So I've had 5 blood tests over the last year and a half, actually. My blood markers have improved every time. Okay. So, I just feel so much better, actually, much healthier. Another unexpected benefit has been my cognitive function. Even speaking better. It probably doesn't sound that way at the moment, but my speaking has improved, and I think largely because of my diet. And my cognitive function, where, like I said before, after so much chemotherapy, especially after transplant, I was cooked, and I had very difficult time managing to think, concentrate, and to actually speak. So these are things that are really improving a lot for me. And I'm managing to focus better and work better on the things that outside of YouTube that I am doing for myself as well. So that's pretty much been my progression. So I've gone from, over the years, gone from a state where it actually hurt just to move anything. I couldn't move. I was so frail and dry that any sort of movement felt like it was going to break my muscles. To where I'm at now, it might sound like a long time, but almost 10 years now. But it's quite a big change, and along the way there have been major hurdles along the way that have had my fair share of setbacks along the way as well. Colds, flus, infections, and injuries. So it's actually been quite a dramatic turnaround. So everything just feels like it's moving in the right direction, and it's been a long time for things to actually move in the right direction for me. So and I think carnivore diet is part of it. Of course, if you have a look at some of my other life hacks video, okay, there are other things that I like to do as well, including getting enough sunlight and grounding and breathing and so on. So check out that video if you are interested in seeing what else I do. It's not just about the diet, but it is the diet is certainly one of the biggest keys, or certainly been I think that one of the biggest keys for my remission and my health improvement along the way. All right, guys. I hope that's answered a few questions. If you have any more questions, please leave them in the comments. I'm more than happy to talk about it. And I'll see you again soon. All right, take care. Have a great day.